When the 3 Series first hit the US, it was a 2-liter 4. Guess what? It is again. Let's drive the 2012 328i and check the tech. I love the look of the new 3, as I do the new 5 it resembles heavily. BMW has mostly shaken off those bad days of some really ugly cars and delivered a 3 that at once presents both upscale and sporty. Now let's get a look around the cabin of this new 3. A couple things will stand out to you. It's mostly familiar, but check out the screen. That's different. It's not a pop-up, it's not a swivel-up, it's a different design than you'll see on just about any other car maker. It is a stand-up, fixed sort of a tablet. Now what is interesting about this to me, it's still a widescreen, still the same iDrive interface, but notice how high it is. The midline is actually at the top of the gauges. It's the highest thing in terms of eye line in the car. This seems to dovetail nicely, if only by sheer coincidence, with those new federal guidelines that have been suggested, saying everything in the car that is interface-oriented should be as high as possible on the eye line and as centered as possible over the steering yoke to keep that driver looking where they're going. This goes a long way to get there. But here's what's really new. Connected Drive. This gets us into a lot of stuff. First of all, BMW apps. That is a connected drive app you put on your iPhone that brings you Facebook, Twitter, web radio streaming of kind of a generic sort. It's not Pandora, it's not Spotify, it's not Mog. And you've got plug-in technology like iPod Out, which lets you connect your iPhone, for example, here in the cradle and get a really nice, not exactly faithful, but very similar Apple-like interface for accessing it. In here in the console, standard aux as well as the USB for thumb drives and or iOS devices. There's the cradle, of course, where the iPhone lives. Now, we also have on this car a head-up display optionally installed. I can get my navigation prompts, I can get speed, I can see media information, I can see warning messages about the state of the car. The thing that's interesting is in the website materials and their promotional stuff, they show that being full color. This one's just either white in the day or orange at night. I'm not sure if I'm missing something. We recognize this goofy-looking BMW paddle shifter these days. It's all pretty standard stuff. It also gets over here to a gate for manual shifting. And right next to that are those drive profile buttons, but look how they've changed. Now we've got Eco Pro, and then you've got Comfort, which is the standard setting, and then you've got Sport. The Eco one's the most interesting. This gets us to new choices. You can set speed warnings, limits on speed that you drive, and also tell the climate control to behave in a way that puts less drag on the engine. Now this thing here shows your eco potential. It's kind of like what you've seen in a lot of the Asian cars where they'll let you grow leaves, or Ford lets you do that too, as well as Hyundai. And then over here you've also got sort of a dynamic current eco driving bar graph at the bottom. When you're not in eco mode, it goes to a more conventional instantaneous MPG display. And finally, we have efficient dynamics. That means that when you brake in this car, it helps to regen the battery, allowing the alternator to spend less time dragging on the engine to regen the battery. And once we start driving, you're going to find out why I love this button. It became my best friend real fast. This is the one that turns off the automatic start-stop technology. Okay, here's where things get really interesting on this car. We're back to a 4-cylinder on the 3 Series. This is a 2-liter turbo. Twin power turbo means a single turbocharger that's a twin scroll, so it can work optimized at different bands of the RPM range. Direct injection, that's all the rage as well. This is the combination of tech that is making the gas engine a rock star again. Here are the numbers. 240 horse, 260 Rorty foot-pounds of torque. Gets this 3,400-pound car to 60 in a very trim and tidy 5.7 seconds while delivering 2436 EPA estimates. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice when you're driving this 328 with its 4-cylinder is the start-stop technology. Not unheard of in German cars these days, but it was for the longest time. So I'm coming to a stop here, and the engine should shut down. There it goes. Okay, when it does that, the car bucks back and forth. What the hell's that? Then when I lift off, it'll restart. Vroom! Makes kind of this engine starting sound. And you'd say, well, sure, it should make an engine starting sound. The engine is starting. The problem is, I just drove the Camry hybrid a few days ago. That also has auto start-stop. The difference is you don't notice it. It's quicker than this, quieter, and smoother. And that car costs as little as half what this one does, depending on configuration. So yeah, I got tired of that real quick, and that's why my best friend is the auto start stop off button. On the plus side, the comfort mode is very nicely tuned in terms of throttle response, the way the car behaves overall. The whole powertrain behavior becomes just where I would want it for everyday driving. And then when you go to sport mode, this guy's got some guts. That 260 foot-pounds of torque is all there with very little turbo lag. In fact, I'd almost say none. This car stays on cam really nicely for a turbo. But when you do tap into the power of this engine like this, it's kind of a grindy sounding affair. Put it this way, and they're gonna hate to hear this, it ain't no Audi. That smoothness isn't in this engine. It's not characteristic of a 3 Series, which has become kind of a mid-level, very nice car. Finally, that interface screen, the one right there in front of you, that is really outstandingly well engineered. It's now in the periphery of a proper driving view, whereas to have that a little lower, a little more central in the console takes it out of your periphery. That's a key step toward reducing driver eye off the road distraction. Now, as part of its efficient dynamics, a 328i has electric power steering to reduce drag on the engine, but it behaves like old hydraulic power steering in one odd way. When you're at a stop with an auto-stopped engine, moving the steering wheel, even slightly, restarts the engine. Seems like a needless reason to start burning gas again when I'm not even moving. All right, now a 2012 328i, this Turbo 4, is going to hit you about 36 base, and they go well up from there. This car is about 50 grand and doesn't even have every option. But here are the key ones I'd look at. The BMW apps, that's 250 bucks. If you've got an iPhone, you've got to get that. There's a tech package for about $2,500 that's going to bring you their excellent navigation system, even though I'm kind of cool on factory nav, and the head-up display, which is done so well. Hey folks, Brian Cooley from CNET.com. Now when we check the performance of a piece of tech, we check the performance of a piece of tech. If you love videos of cars and all their high-tech and high-performance glory, check out the CNET Car Tech video podcast, cnet.com/CarTechTV.